A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, there was a story about a transgender quadriplegic indigenous lesbian who had all the force powers ever and constantly talked about dinosaurs, feelings, and Arthurian legends. Yeah, that totally makes me think of Star Wars. So Disney announced a new line, Star Wars High Republic. This is meant to replace the expanded universe Old Republic stories everyone loves with Disney's new woke Star Wars drivel that's almost dead on arrival. To be fair, it's not really the new writer's faults. All the problems begin and end with Disney's moronic decision to trash the expanded universe, which made sense for any of the stories featuring the original cast, but also included everything set before episode 1, which makes no sense because none of it appeared on film. That's decades of beloved stories just thrown away out of sheer fucking hubris. The result is a current clusterfuck known as Disney Star Wars, a franchise bereft of any value, enjoyment, or purpose. Outside of The Mandalorian, Disney would be better off just leaving Star Wars alone because clearly there are too many people involved who just can't figure out how to make it work. And that's why when I saw the promos for Star Wars High Republic, I just went, fuck off, and went about my day. I'm not giving this thing my money, not until someone else, someone whose opinion I trust, can vouch that any of it is actually any good. And the reason why is because I already knew that this was going to be a bunch of woke nonsense. Oh, I didn't think every story was going to feature a member of the alphabet people, but I was pretty sure that representation, inclusivity, and diversity would be high on the list of priorities for the writers, and boy was I right. Literally. Diversity is on the list. Twice. Because when you think space operas with aliens of various species, your primary concern is definitely progressive diversity. Because the aliens just don't cut it. They're not different enough. You need to make sure you have enough brown people and lesbos and its pats. That's the thing we have to worry about. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to worry about diversity when you're in a setting where you literally have talking mobster slugs? You have to be Anthony Gramuglia stupid. He bitches on comic book resources that, quote, fans angry about diversity in Star Wars can just stay away. Is that it? That's your hot take. Man, that's so hot I might have to unzip my winter coat. 1/4 of an inch. But for Anthony, the struggle for meaningful content is real, so he took a handful of people bitching on Reddit about this idea board and made a pointless article that it won't take me very long to smack down. He says, quote, the reaction to the announcement came fast. The moment the screenshot was posted, people started criticizing Disney for ruining Star Wars. Many presented the fact Disney listed diversity twice on its billboard as proof Lucasfilms was going to pander exclusively to the theoretical social justice warriors they fear have overtaken society. Anthony, how are you going to burn that straw man with such a lukewarm hot take? Jesus, I've had rug burns that were hotter than this. It's not theoretical that Disney is going to pander to woke progressives. The fact that it's listed twice is a pretty good indication there will be pandering. Allow me to mansplain. See, the idea boards were written in order of top to bottom, and usually left to right. That means that whatever is on top of the list was something people brought up first. So the fact that diversity is listed twice at the top of the list, and before things like actual ending, relatable characters, sweeping epic, humor, rival houses, Sith Empire, Chaos Agents, and Splinter Group, means that it's more important to the writers than any of those other ideas. You know, the ones that would actually make Star Wars interesting. Like I mentioned before, this is a space opera. By default, there will be scores of alien species. That would automatically give you all the diversity you could possibly want because these species would all be different. But that's not the diversity they're talking about. They're talking about the alphabet people. They're talking about feminist propaganda. They're talking about racial politics. What the hell do modern Earth politics have to do with this fictional setting? You could make an alien species that's all female and be done with it, but that's not really what you want. This is going to be Canto Bight all over again, and part of me is wishing for the entire thing to fail just so I can enjoy watching Disney Star Wars die a lonely grave of the Firefly's death. Then he says, quote, others fear that Star Wars being not pro-war went against its very name, but doesn't give any examples of anybody doing that, and this is a common problem with people like Anthony. He found a couple of people doing something and turned it into a thing, all without showing the context of what they actually said and why they said it. Then he sets about trying to burn down his own strawman arguments, but apparently lacks the dumb strength to actually strike the match. He says, quote, Star Wars is not pro-war. The series does feature wars, but mostly focuses on the devastation they leave. Yeah, we all know that. No one thinks Star Wars is pro-war. It'd be pretty hard to draw that conclusion from any of the films, shows, comics, or games. The series does feature war, however, and it's possible that the complaints are that the writers will avoid the topic of war, or refuse to present characters as supporting war, or make anyone who does a villain. This would run counter to what actually happens in Star Wars, both on screen and in the expanded universe. This is one of those things where you have to wait and see what they do instead of jumping to conclusions. It does, however, make Anthony look ridiculous when he says, quote, "The wars in Star Wars exist not because war itself is good, but because some things, like peace, are worth fighting for. Even the prequels were incredibly anti-war, seeing how every side, be they Sith, Separatist, Republic, and Jedi, all want peace in some form. Every war that happens is just part of Palpatine's scheme to gain power over the Republic. The only person who wants war is the villain of the entire franchise." Nope, that's actually not what happened. At all. Watch the movies again. Plenty of people in the Empire totally want to crush everyone opposing them. They're not doing it to achieve peace, but purely to gain power. The Old Republic goes to war to stop the Trade Federation from doing something. It's never really clear why these two are fighting, but it is clear that the Trade Federation's activities pose a risk to the Republic's power, and this is part of the reason they fight. The end result will be peace, but the goal is for one side to crush the other. So, having bombed harder than Lily Singh, Anthony moves on to accurately present the other side's argument as if it were unreasonable by proving that it's not. Quote, "A few of the comments also argued Star Wars going all in on diversity is a problem, and Disney is ignoring Star Wars was always diverse in the old films. However, now they argue the concept of diversity has been co-opted by feminists, which twist the ideas of diversity in ways that make these fans uncomfortable." Yeah, what's your point? Disney has inexplicably fixated on diversity, ignoring that there was diversity in the original and prequel trilogies, and all throughout the expanded universe. Instead, they adopted the twisted progressive view of diversity, which is heavily influenced by feminist ideology, which tends to make normal people feel uncomfortable what with the open sexism, racism, heterophobia, and classism. So, thanks for steel-manning their argument, but it's really not a counter-argument to literally state what someone thinks. Come on, try again. Star Wars, from its first entry, emphasized that the galaxy was vast and multifaceted. From the scenes in Mos Eisley Cantina to Jabba's palace, there was a vast array of life in various forms, including Wookiees, Twi'leks, and Devaronians. Why does it stretch people's imagination to see black people or women play significant roles in the series? Anthony, I want to ask you a serious question. Are you special? In all seriousness, are you someone with a cognitive disorder? I have to ask because your question makes no sense. You're asking why people would have a problem with writers fixating on black people and women when they have a sandbox filled with, quote, "a vast array of life in various forms, including Wookiees, Twi'leks, and Devaronians." It should be self-evident why someone would have a problem with that. You have a world of life available to you, yet your primary focus is to play on race and sex. You can have any number of aliens you want, create any number of strange new cultures, but instead you want to focus on modern Earth politics. Yes, real Star Wars fans will have a problem with their epic space opera being turned into a progressive pussy party. That's not what Star Wars is about, and that's why the fan fiction sequels pissed off real fans. You've taken away the enjoyment so you can browbeat the audience for not being woke enough. Then he tries to claim that this is part of the original intention of Star Wars. Quote, "What's even more baffling is how this mindset flies in the face of the original intentions of Star Wars. Princess Leia was one of the first really great mainstream heroines to appear in a genre film, subverting tons of stereotypes surrounding the damsels in distress usually found on film. So your evidence is literally the thing people are saying has always been a part of Star Wars, which they incidentally like. I'm gonna ask you again, are you special? Do you belong in the John Steinbeck novel? Because honestly, either you're not trying or you're not that bright. You're proving their argument. Nobody has a problem with Leia. No one had a problem with her as a princess or a general or in that slave girl costume. No one thought she was incapable or shouldn't be in charge. Hell, the person in charge of the rebellion was a woman, to no one's complaint. If anything, people want to see more of Mon Mothma. You can't discredit someone's argument by presenting it back to them with a condescending tone. What they're saying doesn't sound unreasonable. This, however, does. Quote, Characters like Rey, Cara Dune, and Rose are just a natural evolution of this, and many of the criticisms levied at them can be thrown at Luke or Anakin as well. No, they can't. Luke and Anakin are complete characters with full story arcs who strive, struggle, fail, and then find redemption. Rose is a token Asian that has less character than BB-8. Cara Dune is barely a character at this point, so it's not even fair to mention her. And Rey is the ultimate Mary Sue to the point that we should start calling Mary Sue's Rey. This desperate need for woke fake fans to pretend that Luke and Anakin are broken characters is sad and pathetic. It's painfully obvious that these characters have full story arcs. To try to pretend otherwise just proves how dishonest people like Anthony truly are. Like when he says, quote, "There are Star Wars fans who hate diversity." No, there aren't. That's a lie, and it's not even a good one. Unfortunately for them, it isn't going to slow down anytime soon, as it's always been a part of the franchise. A franchise doing so poorly that they're not making movies anymore. This is the franchise you're talking about. The one that just made $1 billion worldwide flop. We're using the same words, Anthony, but we're not talking about the same things. Diversity has always been a part of Star Wars. The woke progressive doctrine hasn't, and its inclusion along with all its fake diversity has killed a previously profitable franchise. You can't sell the toys, you can't sell the books, you can't sell the comics, you won't promote the game everybody liked, you're ashamed of the Mandalorian's success. In the words of Obi-Wan Kenobi, this isn't the diversity you're looking for. Move along. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.